Imagine waking up every single day and never once seeing the sun. Above your head, the streets of Rome are filled with noise. Merchants shouting in crowded markets, senators arguing in marble halls, chariots rattling over stone roads. But you hear none of it. Instead, you stand in darkness. The air is thick and damp. The smell is overwhelming. Your feet are buried in a slow-moving current of human waste, rotting food, animal carcasses and storm water draining from the city above. This was the hidden world beneath ancient Rome. Beneath the streets ran the Cloaca Maxima, the largest and most important sewer system in the ancient world. Built more than 2,500 years ago, it carried the waste of 1 million people into the Tiber River. Historians often describe it as a masterpiece of Roman engineering. But engineering alone did not keep it running. Behind this monumental system was a workforce that rarely appears in Roman history. Slaves, criminals, and condemned laborers who descended into the tunnels to repair collapsing stone, clear blockages, and keep the entire city from drowning in its own filth. Their work was dangerous, filthy, and almost completely invisible. Today we descend into the Cloaca Maxima to uncover the lives of these forgotten workers, men who maintained the infrastructure that allowed Rome to function while remaining buried beneath it. The Cloaca Maxima began as a drainage channel in the 6th century BCE during the reign of the Roman king Lucius Tarquinius Priscus. At the time, the valley between Rome's hills was a swamp. Seasonal floods turned the area into a muddy basin where stagnant water collected. The early Roman state solved the problem with an enormous drainage canal that redirected water toward the Tiber River. Over the centuries, the system expanded. Open ditches were replaced with stone tunnels. Tributary drains were added beneath streets and buildings. By the height of the Roman Empire, the Cloaca Maxima had become a massive underground network that collected runoff, bathhouse drainage, and household waste from across the city. The main tunnel itself was enormous. Some sections were large enough for a person to stand upright. Others were wide enough to allow small boats to pass through during maintenance. Ancient writers, like Pliny the Elder, described the sewer with amazement. He praised its durability and claimed that it had survived floods, earthquakes, and centuries of constant use. But admiration for the structure rarely extended to the people who worked inside it. Maintenance of the sewer fell largely to the lowest levels of Roman society. This included slaves owned by the state, prisoners condemned to labor, and workers hired for dangerous public works projects. Their job was simple in theory: keep the sewer flowing. In practice, this meant entering the tunnels to clear debris, repair stone walls, and remove blockages that could cause flooding in the city above. Without constant maintenance, the system would fail. And if it failed, Rome itself would quickly become unlivable. Working inside the Cloaca Maxima meant operating in conditions that few modern workers would tolerate. The tunnels were dark, damp, and filled with slow-moving wastewater. Storm runoff mixed with sewage from public latrines, bathhouses, slaughterhouses, and kitchens. Archaeological studies of Roman sewer sediment have found traces of food scraps, animal bones, broken pottery, and household waste flowing through these channels. Workers often had to wade directly into the current to remove obstructions. In some sections, the water reached knee level. During heavy rains, it could rise far higher. The structure itself also required constant attention. The earliest tunnels were built using large blocks of tufa, a porous volcanic stone common in the region around Rome. Over time, water erosion and shifting ground caused parts of the sewer to weaken. Laborers were sent inside to reinforce walls and arches before they collapsed. This work carried serious risks. One of the most dangerous threats came from gas buildup. Decomposing waste produces methane and other toxic gases. In poorly ventilated tunnels, these gases could accumulate in pockets. Workers entering these areas could quickly lose consciousness. Another constant danger was flooding. Heavy storms could send huge volumes of water rushing through the sewer system. Anyone inside at the wrong moment could be swept away. Even ancient Roman writers acknowledged the dangers.
Hold on to the stones.
Pliny the Elder noted that the sewers sometimes carried such powerful torrents that entire wagons thrown into the drains would be swept away by the current. For the men inside, the environment was relentless. Darkness, noise, filth, and the constant knowledge that the structure above them, the entire city of Rome, depended on their work. While we know the Cloaca Maxima required constant maintenance, the daily lives of the workers themselves are rarely described in surviving texts. Roman authors focused on emperors, generals, and public monuments. Laborers rarely appear in their writings, but archaeology offers clues about what their lives may have been like. Evidence suggests that sewer workers likely entered the tunnels for shifts rather than living permanently underground. However, the amount of time they spent below ground may still have been substantial. Maintenance of such a massive infrastructure system would have required regular inspection and repair. Workers operating in darkness and foul air for extended periods likely suffered serious health consequences. Exposure to sewage carries a high risk of infection. Cuts or wounds could easily become contaminated. Respiratory problems would also have been common in the humid, gas-filled tunnels. Another hazard was disease, carried by parasites and bacteria present in human waste. Studies of ancient Roman latrines and sewer deposits have revealed eggs from intestinal parasites such as whipworm and roundworm. Workers regularly exposed to this environment would have faced constant risk of illness. Even the physical environment could alter the body. Extended exposure to darkness and damp conditions can cause skin infections, weakened immune systems, and severe fatigue. Some workers may have also encountered bodies. Historical sources mention that unwanted corpses, particularly animals and sometimes executed criminals, were occasionally dumped into drainage systems. Cleaning these blockages would have been another part of the job. Despite this brutal environment, there are hints that the workers maintained elements of normal human life. Roman underground spaces, including tunnels and quarries, sometimes contain graffiti carved by laborers. Short messages, names, or symbols scratched into stone. These markings remind us that the workers were not anonymous shadows. They were individuals with identities, beliefs, and lives beyond the tunnels. The Cloaca Maxima still exists today. More than 2,000 years after its construction, parts of the original system continue to function as part of Rome's modern drainage network. Few ancient engineering projects have lasted this long. Visitors walking through the Roman Forum rarely think about what lies beneath their feet. They see temples, triumphal arches, and the remains of imperial palaces. But under those monuments runs the same sewer system that once carried the waste of the ancient city. Its survival is often credited to Roman engineering skill, and that credit is deserved. Roman builders designed tunnels strong enough to withstand centuries of floods, earthquakes, and urban expansion. But the system did not maintain itself. For generations, laborers descended into the darkness to repair walls, clear debris, and keep the tunnels open. Their work ensured that Rome remained livable. Without functioning drainage, disease would have spread rapidly through the densely populated city. Floodwaters would have turned streets into swamps. Public baths and fountains, central to Roman urban life, would have been impossible to maintain. In other words, the greatness of Rome depended not only on emperors and armies, it also depended on invisible labor. Men whose names were rarely recorded, men who worked beneath the city so that those above could live in comfort. Today, archaeologists and engineers occasionally explore sections of the ancient sewer during inspections and research. Inside the tunnels, they still find the same massive stone blocks, laid more than 2 millennia ago. The air is still damp, the darkness still absolute, and the sound of water moving slowly through the tunnel is a reminder that the system is still doing its job. The Cloaca Maxima is often celebrated as one of the greatest engineering achievements of the ancient world. But it is also a monument to the workers who maintained it, a hidden army beneath the streets of Rome, men who entered the darkness so that the eternal city could remain above it.